Welcome back to Stribling's New York. I'm your host, Rob Taub, joined in the studio by our producer, Tony Simone. And on the phone is Tracy Nieporent, who is a Renaissance man, master of the universe, and proprietor of numerous restaurants, Nobu, Tribeca Grill, and, of course, more importantly, the Acela Club at Citi Field, where the New York Mets play. And you can listen to the Mets games on WOR AM radio. And Len and Todd in the morning discuss sports, and there are sports morning, noon, and night on WOR radio. And nobody knows more about sports and the Mets than Tracy. Welcome.
Thank you, Rob. That's a great introduction, and I don't know if I'm worthy of it, but I do.
Did I mention you were handsome and charming?
Thank you.
I'm vying for a free meal, obviously.
Well, we'll make sure we're out there together. We're looking forward to a great season out at Citi Field. We really are. There's tremendous anticipation. I think they sold all of their season ticket plans. Opening day is a sellout. We're going to be serving a lot of people at the Acela Club on opening day and throughout the season, and it's a great venue. And there's tremendous anticipation about the team. It's very exciting.
Well, you know, there's a great quote from Robert Wuhl, the comedian, who's he's a Dodger fan. What are you going to do? He's living in L.A. I think he's originally a New Yorker. He may be from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
But he had a great line about going to a ball game now. And he goes, a lot of people play golf, and they belong to a country club, and the stadium is my country club. And I don't mind spending the entire weekend there. If there are 3 games in a row, I'll go to all of them. I'm not in the stands for the whole game. And to me, we always talk about change and evolution as the city changes on this show and as other things change. And baseball has changed to that degree, and that's what I wanted to talk about a bit today, because going to the stadium now is more, it's a different kind of adventure.
There's really something for everybody. There are a lot of people who are diehard fans like myself who ultimately like to be in our seats and watch the game, and we pay attention to every play, and we're counting the pitches, and we're looking at how they set up the hitters, and we're really into every finite detail. But there's a lot of people who go to the games now, and the game to some degree is a focal point, but in some cases is also a backdrop. And so there are a lot of things that you can do with your kids. You can take batting practice. You can get, face painting. You can eat an amazing array of food from really all over the world. So there's a lot of entertainment. There's a lot of music. There's a lot of activity. There's a lot of visual things that are very exciting. I think the feeling is that it's not an inexpensive day to go out to a ballpark, but it's very much worthwhile. It's kind of like going to Disney World or Disneyland or one of those places. You're going to go out and you're going to have a great day and you're going to be well entertained. And sometimes the game doesn't work out the way you want it to, but there's so many things going on that you still feel that it was money well spent and it was a day well spent.
Exactly, which is different now with basketball. It's like that's the big panic of buying a ticket to go to a basketball game. If there's a blowout, you could have just wasted a lot of money. If it's a baseball game and it doesn't go that well and your team gets killed, you can still have a day in the sun and do a lot of different activities. And that's fundamental.
Even within the confines of a game where, say your team is losing, there still may be some great plays that are made, some great defensive plays or a tremendous hit or something that, I think Lucas Duda had 3 home runs in a game last year that the Mets lost. But that was still pretty exciting because up until that point, I think a week or so before, I think it was Kirk Neuenhaus hit 3 home runs in a game. The Mets had never had somebody hitting 3 runs at home in a game in their entire history. It took until 2015 for it to happen. So that was very exciting. When I'm at games, you never know what's going to happen. I was there when Johan Santana pitched his no-hitter. That was a totally unanticipated event. I was there when Jose Reyes won the batting title and when R.A. Dickey won his 20th game. And those were actually in losing seasons, but they are iconic moments. They're moments that you remember. And the community of Met fans is all together. And even though we weren't raising a championship trophy, we had that sense of being together and of enjoying the experience of seeing some of our players excel, with the hope that down the line something good would happen. And, of course, a lot of that came to fruition last season and kind of unexpected as it all worked out, but it was really very exciting.
Well, there's something about Citi Field that just creates a bonding between the fans, and I've written about it extensively in my column in the Huffington Post. I was riding out this a few years ago. I think when they first brought Banner Day back and I was on the subway trying to think what's my angle going to be, and then I saw all these people with banners on the subway, and some of them were putting the banners together that day, and as I started interviewing them, and others had been working on them for 3 months, and I was like, wow, there's my story. And I went out onto the field, and it's one of the few times the fans really get to go out on the field and bring their craftsmanship out there, and it was a really warm, wonderful feeling, and something that really only happens at a baseball game.
No, it's true, and I know the Mets this year on Sundays, they're making every Sunday a family day. So there's a lot of activities that go on Sunday, including, I think, at the end of the homestands, they have the kids running the bases after the game, and so you get to go on the field and run on the same base paths that your favorite players are running on. So it's pretty exciting. I think they're doing a lot to try to bring people closer to the game. And the way that Citi Field was constructed, it really was done beautifully. I think they were thinking back to Ebbets Field and the nostalgia that evoked, and they wanted to build something, obviously, that had all the modern technology, but that had the seats angled in the proper way so you were facing the action, and that there was good access to a lot of things. And I think they were very successful. And when you're sitting in that ballpark, you really have a sense of being in a place that's really kind of interesting. And you look around, and everything is visually interesting. You can hardly take a bad picture at Citi Field, because no matter what angle you're at, there's always an interesting backdrop. And people are there, and I think this year especially, it's going to be much more crowded than it's been, and that's going to be that's going to bring an energy and an excitement that hasn't been there all the time.
Well, the Mets have such an amazing pitching staff, which harkens back to my youth of like when the Orioles had 420 game winners. I could see that potential with the Mets this year.
It's very exciting. I mean, Syndergaards' first start this season, he gives up a triple to the guy who he buzzed in the World Series, and man on third, nobody out. You think, oh boy, here we go, and then he hunkers down and strikes out the side, goes on to strike out I think 9 guys in the 6 innings he pitched. That's pretty phenomenal. I mean, when you think about it, that's a team, the Kansas City Royals, that doesn't strike out. So they get that number of strikeouts in that short a period of time. It just showed he was pitching lights out. And I think that's something. I mean, the guys have to go out and prove it. But we have a staff there now that really 1 through 5 is very, very imposing. And when Wheeler comes back, then it's even that much more so. So you just hope that that they can live in the moment. There's an innocent climb going on here now. There's tremendous anticipation. There could be some bumps in the road at some point. A baseball fan, you always know that it's a long season and it's a war of attrition to some degree. It's a grueling schedule, 162 games. But when you have that kind of pitching staff, you're not going to have long losing streaks if you have losing streaks. And that's very exciting, and it's very intimidating to the opposition. Listen, as a Met fan, we have not had this kind of feeling that many times in our history. It's been periodic. So it's just, it's going to be a wonderful thing to behold.
Well, when I say it harkens back to my youth, so I'm 60. You're a far younger man than I would. You have
I'm not
38. No, we
I
okay.
wish.
You and I remember this was a common thing. I can't remember the last time it was said by a baseball announcer. For those of you keeping score at home, I used to keep score at home, and if I went to a game, my friends and I were, especially when we went to see a great pitcher. You had to keep score, and it makes me think now with the Mets. I'm excited about sitting in the stands instead of one of the things has changed as I've gotten older, and you're partially to blame. This is a good thing. Is there are wonderful places to eat now and also get a drink. And when I was a youngster, I wasn't able to belly up at a bar at Yankee Stadium or Shea Stadium and have a Maker's Mark bourbon, as I'm wont to do at the Acela Club, where they proof me, by the way, and everybody else. I love the fact that they proofed this 80-year-old guy in front of me. Is that a New York State law now or something?
Yeah, it just shows people will go to a lot of trouble and put on a lot of makeup in order to get a drink. But it really is kind of silly, but it is what it is. I always think it's funny. When they're selling beer in the stands, it's the same thing. Now they need to see I'm pretty wizened at this stage of my life, so I don't know. But I guess if people think that you're still young enough where it's necessary, then that's a compliment. So I'll take it as such. We're very excited at the Acela Club. I mean, we have a really good array of food there that we're serving. I think it's very reasonably priced. It's a nice sit down restaurant. It's a very good place for people to go prior to the game to, kind of ease into the experience. And a lot of people like to stay there for the entire game.
How long are we allowed to linger there? Since I know I am so poorly mannered, I think I have stayed for the entire game without asking if it's appropriate or not.
I think a lot of people, there are a lot of people who want to go and sit in their seats, and then there are a lot of people who would prefer to stay there. So as long as, when you make your reservation, you let people know, or you let the servers know, they know, how to.
Now let's describe the club for people, because everybody who's been to Citi Field has seen it, whether they've been in there or not, because it's really dramatic. It's this giant glass wall in the outfield.
Yes, it's in left field there. The concept is that we have market tables, and at each of these market tables, one would be featuring soups and panini. There'd be things like tomato basil soup and black bean soup and assorted pressed paninis and house-made chips and dips. Then we have a butcher block table, which has prosciutto and imported salami, marinated olives. It's got artisanal breads and cheeses. It's a very nice array. Then there's an antipasti table that has buffalo mozzarella and tomato confit and marinated mushrooms and grilled vegetables and fusilli salad, basil and pine nut pesto, and roasted asparagus. And then finally there's an al forno table that has beautiful pizzas that are made right there in the wood-burning oven. There's an Acela Club mac and cheese that's to die for.
I've had it.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, my waistline does
Yeah, you're giving me an idea for a new concept, and it could make Citi Field a lot of money. Gurney seats. After you have a massive, sumptuous meal at the Acela Club, you put you on a gurney and they wheel you to a special area. You have to pay for like four seats, but it will be worth it because you can recline.
Well, sometimes you feel like you want to have a nap. Well, there are things there that are not that heavy. So
the food is delicious there. It really is. It's just I'm a diabetic. I watch my diet. I eat sensibly, but I do know when I sin, I sin properly.
No, and we got good meatballs. We got good Caesar salad. There's a lot of things. Then so that's the market tables are strictly, that's what we served entirely at the day games. For night games, we have the market tables, plus you can also order an entree if you'd like to. And there's rotisserie chicken, there's a Berkshire pork chop, there's a Tribeca Grill pasta of the day, there are barbecued ribs, there's a pan-roasted Atlantic cod, and there's a New York strip steak. So, I mean, it's a good array. It's a good array of things. We also even have a children's menu, which includes the market table, and then they have their own stuff like chicken fingers and hot dogs. And we all, for a lot of the day games, we also have a hot dog cart.
Very importantly, what we should cover is who can eat at the Acela Club, because certain stadiums, like Yankee Stadium, for example, many people are barred from some of the restaurants unless you pay $9 billion for a ticket.
Well, the way it's set up, what people should do actually is when they're purchasing their tickets, they should find out if it's accessible to the Acela Club. Most of the tickets are. There are some that aren't. Honestly, anybody who makes a reservation and gets to the front door there, we're not going to turn anybody away. But that's not really our rule. But I would say most tickets do qualify. The problem is getting there because there's checkpoints within the stadium.
But I found that most seats are accessible to the Acela Club comparatively to other stadiums.
If you actually check Mets.com, that can actually.
And I know this because when I'm not sitting in the press box, I'm really too cheap to buy a good seat, and so I get the cheapest one, and I've still found my way to the Acela Club.
There are some seats that have great views of the field. There are other seats that don't have a field view, but it's still a very convivial atmosphere, and it's a very nice way to arrive at the ballpark in a relaxing way, and talk about the game. There are TV monitors there, so you can kind of watch the pregame stuff that's going on, and then once the game starts, they do have the game on the monitors as well. And I find I'm the kind of person that I like to go to my seats and watch the game. That's my preference. Although, a lot of times when the weather's not so wonderful, people do tend to want to stay in.
Yeah, like this week when it's
well,
29 degrees out.
Yeah, it'll be a little challenging. Ultimately, it'll turn nice. And then, in the summer times it gets very hot sometimes. So then that's a refuge from the heat as well.
Well, Tracy, we have another guest coming on, so I'm going to have to wrap up. But I really want to have you come back again soon. In fact, I'd love to do one of our shows this year from the Acela Club. And would be great to do a remote. And I'm also thinking about getting Ron Swoboda on with you. And we can
that would be a lot of fun.
Talk about old and new.
That would be
since
great.
There's still a lot of pitching to talk about. That's my area of expertise in bailiwick when it comes to baseball. It's going
to be a wonderful season out at Citi Field, and I know it'll be a wonderful season on WOR. The Mets have the best announcers, and both on radio and television.
And many of them visited you at the tasting last week while we were recording this show. We couldn't attend at the Acela Club, so I heard them all talking about it.
That was a nice event, yeah. It was a lot of fun. Well, it's a very positive outlook. So I look forward to seeing you soon, Rob.
Okay, take care. Thanks for calling.
All right.
Bye.